Hello there. Welcome to Reddit Stories and Secrets. We hope you would be entertained. Kindly leave us a like and a subscription. What was the closest you have ever been to death? I was run over by a dump truck in my car. When I was pulled from the vehicle by the officer who happened to be two vehicles behind me, I was not breathing and had no pulse. I was medevaced to the hospital where I had two more incidents that almost led to my death. Ask if you want to know the rest.
Bruh, we want to know.
While in the hospital I was placed in a coma. I developed a staph infection in my lungs causing me to stop breathing and go into cardiac arrest again. After that was sorted out, I developed an allergic reaction to the fentanyl keeping me in the coma. I had a fever of 107.8 degrees, again stopping my heart. I was placed in an ice suit used for cardiac patients and weaned off all drugs before being sent to rehab for my SCI, which has left me paralyzed. Just remember I'm on the right side of the grass. One morning when I was a kid I had a hankering for a Pop-Tart. I threw that sucker in the toaster and pulled down the little handle. I was beginning to get impatient and realized I didn't actually know how long to cook a Pop-Tart, so I decided that I should touch it and check. I went to a nearby drawer and got out a butter knife, then stuck it straight into the toaster to feel how squishy the Pop-Tart felt. I didn't touch any metal parts. In fact, a portion of my mind made sure not to do such. I just couldn't remember why. It wasn't until I got the knife out that I realized how goddamn stupid I was. As an amateur electrician at age 12 or so, I decided I would make a long enough cord to quit having the extension cord to the stereo taken for other uses. I had a coil of wire and connected the plug end into it. I then plugged it into the outlet, rolled it out to the stereo, and estimated how much needed to be added to it to wire it directly in. I then, without unplugging the end, cut the wire with uninsulated wire cutters. I remember the large flash, the black mark on my hand, and the hole it blew into the cutters. My older brother, who happened to be an electrician, got a kick out of it. I stepped on two IED pressure plates that failed to detonate during one deployment. On another deployment, my Bradley CFV just clipped the edge of an AT mine buried in the road, but since we didn't roll over the pressure trigger in the center, it didn't explode. Just another day in the life, back then. I slipped on a steep hill with 100 pounds of cable around my neck and chest. One end caught between some rocks and the cable started tightening around me, while I was sliding down the hill into a river ravine. I couldn't grab onto anything and saw the edge of the cliff coming up quick. Fortunately the cable stopped tightening before it got to my throat, and that ended up saving me from going off the cliff. I had pneumonia, and I didn't realize how serious it was until the doctors tried 3 strong antibiotics, and the infection kept growing, and fluid was building up on my lungs. They openly told me they didn't know why the infection was growing, only that it was resistant to all 3 antibiotics they tried. They put me on 2 IVs for 4 days, but the infection was not going away. It was getting harder to breathe, and laying on my back was impossible because of all the pain in my right lung. Eventually, the infection started shrinking on its own, but it was so scary. I was in Dubai with a client who had gotten me extremely liquored up, and apparently when they had gone to another room I made my way over to the hotel balcony and leaned over the railing enough that I actually fell headfirst over the edge. Literally right as I was falling, my client's friend ran up behind me and grabbed me by my legs and was holding me up and screaming for help until my client and another person came out to the balcony and helped pull me up. Obviously, I survived, but yeah, I was about 2 seconds away from dying if that guy hadn't been looking and ran over just when he did. We were really high up. So TLDR, I fell off a balcony head first while more than 8 stories up and was luckily caught by my legs just in time. I almost stepped on a Mojave rattlesnake when we were miles from civilization and nowhere near a road. I was a child at the time, and it was before everyone carried cell phones, so if I got bit I would have been in serious trouble. It's one of the deadliest snakes in America. The snake was nestled in some big rocks that made a little hole in the ground. I was going to step in there because it looked cool, but right before I did, I had a sixth sense sort of feeling that I shouldn't. I trusted my gut and really examined the area in front of me. It took me a while, but I eventually spotted a little baby Mojave rattler right where I was going to step. One of the few times I've experienced my instincts protect me like that. Kind of cool actually, it almost feels like a superpower when it happens.
Giving birth to my 3rd child. I lost a lot of blood, got very cold, and then was very calm as they tried to stop the bleeding. The baby was born and fine, but I was losing blood. They told me to think of the blood stopping and to tell my body to stop it. As they gave me multiple shots of pitocin. My dad was there to see the baby born and almost saw me die. He said, I could have done without all that.
Late teens heading to school by train. I was feeling like shit that morning and even puked halfway to the train but shrugged it off. As I was standing on the platform, waiting for the train, I was hoping it'd get better once I sat down on the train. A couple of minutes later when the train arrived, I waited until the train stopped and walked towards it. I blink and I'm suddenly on my back on the platform with a circle of people around me and a police officer asking me if I can tell her what weekday it is. Turns out, I had fainted walking towards the train and fell down on the track, behind the train. A passerby pulled me back up on the platform. Had I positioned myself near the tracks a few seconds earlier like I normally do, I would have fallen in front of the train. Instead, I got a mild concussion and a scar on my chin from the fall.
My appendix ruptured while I was lying in a hospital bed trying to convince the doctors that I really was in pain. They assumed I was pregnant and were just lying about it. They took blood, pee, and did a pelvic exam which made me throw up because it hurt so bad to move my torso, let alone put my feet up in stirrups. All negative. They still didn't believe me that I wasn't even sexually active at the time. Anyway, I have a very hazy memory of talking to my mom and telling her that it was okay, soon it wouldn't hurt anymore. I was just gonna sleep for a bit. She flipped and happened to work at that hospital, so she got them to do an ultrasound to find this phantom pregnancy. One terrifying look from a tech later, I was booked for surgery and finally got a morphine drip. After almost 14 hours in the ER.
One time in high school a friend and I got a hold of a can of Glade air freshener. Having heard that aerosol can get one high, we decided to huff it. This was a grave mistake. We had no experience huffing anything before, so we didn't know how much was enough. I had my couple of rips off the can, covered with a washcloth to filter out the liquid. I sat down because I started to feel lightheaded, and I started to feel a sense of impending doom. A few seconds go by and the whole world, or perhaps my own consciousness started flashing rapidly like a strobe light. I was pretty sure I was about to die. I passed out eventually and woke in a pool of my own vomit after falling off the couch and onto the floor. I couldn't move, and all I could do is groan in agony. My friend hadn't taken the amount I had, and he was panicking watching me and thinking I was going to die. He did not call for an ambulance because he was afraid of what would happen. It took the better part of a half hour to recover enough to get back upright. I'm pretty sure if I had taken in just a bit more I would have died right there. I've OD'd quite a few times but the worst was after I lost a friend to it. I cracked out on a number of downers and knew I needed to get to the toilet as puke was coming. The run must have been too much for me as I barely made it to the bowl before I passed out. I think I hit my head on the way down but can't be sure as I was alone. I wake up covered in my own sickness and every now and then I'm taken back by how lucky I was to land on my side. I ran a red left turn arrow right in front of a Chevy 2500 doing close to 60 miles per hour. I was already stopped at the light and had been waiting for it to turn green. It was later in the day and the sun was positioned directly behind the light. 16-year-old me looked up and said, "Yeah, that's probably green." No, it wasn't. Anyway, I got Tboned right where the front and rear doors meet on the passenger side. The part of the frame that separates the doors got pushed all the way to the center console, which I smacked my head against. I just remember waking up in a daze with a lot of blood on the right side of my face. Fast forward through the call to mom in the ambulance ride. Doctor showed me a scan and said several fragments of my skull were a piece of paper thickness away from entering my brain. The worst part is I was supposed to be taking my sister with me. She was taking her sweet time at home so I left without her.
Postpartum infection. It came on so quickly that I didn't even recognize the warning signs. You would think a life-threatening infection would be the most traumatic aspect, but it was actually the medical professionals' treatment of me. FYI, something not to say to a new mother with a 10-day-old baby in her arms: you're not going to be a very good mother when you're dead.
When I was 6 or 7 I thought I was the big I am and made my way to the deep end of the pool, with all the cool stuff such as slides and diving boards. Went down one of the slides and my swimming skills were not as fantastic as I assumed, making me slowly drift down to the bottom of the pool. My feeble attempts to get back up to the surface were met with little progress. At some point I just gave up, lay on the bottom, looking up at the sunlight twinkling through the water and everything went black. The next thing I remember was sputtering whilst on the side of the pool and someone pressing on my chest. with quite a crowd around. I jumped up and ran away, worried that I would get into trouble. I have no idea how long I was down there for, but thankful for whoever noticed me. I had a lot near-death experiences. First one I can remember is when I was traveling on a motorbike with my uncle and we got into an accident, right in the middle of a huge traffic jam. Had a huge truck behind me, and the bike fell on me. I thought I was gonna die, but obviously, I didn't. Then once I was cycling and a truck driver came in the wrong direction and hit me and drove away. It was a curve, like you literally can't see if any vehicles are coming, so yeah, I survived. Then once I fell from the second floor of my house to a pile of sand on the ground, and again I survived because the pile of sand decreased the intensity of my fall and prevented injuries. I was once kidnapped too, as a kid, thought I was gonna die but didn't. I bit the lady who dragged me away and ran to my dad who didn't even notice that I was missing lol. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Also turn on post notifications so that you will be notified once new episodes are released. See you on the next episode of Reddit Stories and Secrets.